Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyber Witch, your online resource for spiritual development. Hello, and
Hello.
welcome, one and all, to our weekly live stream called Interdimensional Discussions.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And like normal, if you have questions, throw them in the chat, and we'll definitely try to get to them. But we do have topics, and pretty much the topic is meditation and, basically kind of simple things that we can do, almost all day long to, or just every day to be able to kind of get into a state of meditation. So if you have meditation questions or normal stuff that we talk about, like the fringe stuff and whatnot, you can definitely put it in the comments and we'll try to get to it. But yeah.
Absolutely. Also, please feel free to let us know if there's any kind of problems with the audio or video at any time so we can make sure the quality is running smoothly too. And
It's important.
so we have done a lot of classes on meditation. I know that some people who are watching today's live stream / lecture were part of the occult meditation workshop that we also have linked in the description of this video. So we are going to talk about a lot of things that are different from that, so it's not a repeat of information, so you don't need to worry about that.
Something that I might talk about might be a small repeat, but it's not going to be the same stuff.
It will be analyzed in a different way.
Correct.
And then I've also been spending a lot of time studying Vedic philosophy on meditation. So I have all the stuff that I've been learning from my yoga teacher training about it too to talk about.
Which is very
That's
good.
new.
Yeah. Did you want to start with that since I'll have screens to share if you want to start with the whole
Yeah,
Vedic
you've got
side of it.
screens
I think
to
it's
share.
important. I think it's important.
Yeah,
I like
can-
the Vedic stuff because I think the meditation and the mantra sides of things is highly important.
Okay, so if you have already checked out the video that I uploaded yesterday on this channel, I'm going to kind of riff off of that. The video is called something along the lines of Ancient Secrets on How to Activate Your Psychic Abilities. And if you haven't seen the video from yesterday as the regular upload, please check it out after the show today because there's a lot of really great info in there. And so essentially, there are different mind patterns that we can go into that give us access to what we would consider meditation, and not just meditation in what you would typically think about, like sitting with your legs crossed on the floor, but this kind of mind state that we can go into just through your day where you're able to access deeper parts of yourself and then also spirit contact from the training in yoga, because in what I'm studying, it's beyond the limb of yoga called asana, which is like the stretches and poses, what people in the West typically think about when you talk about yoga. But then there's many other limbs, including things like breathing, called pranayama, and then also and then all these things go together in your overall spiritual work and life and how your mind works. But then also in the limb of yoga, we go really into dharana, which is about the ability to focus your mind on something, and then also dhyana, which is the limb of yoga that's about concentrated meditation. And one really important point for people to start thinking about is there is a big misconception in what meditation actually is. It's not just a state of mind that we put ourselves in to disconnect from ordinary reality, but it is something that is a process that takes us deeper into understanding our own soul, for a lack of a better word of definition.
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you went over all those things. I kind of figured you would, so I wanted you to start because what we're going to be going over today is actually found on my website, which is one of the things I'll be going over is like the Gateway Protocol, which you all can find on my website. But everything you touched on there actually applies to performing that. you know, you almost have to go through all of those stages to really be able to connect to it and really make use of it. And it's not one of those things like if you miss any one of those steps, you're not going to have that effect to it. So I'm so glad you brought that up, and I didn't know you were going to take it there. That was perfect.
I could talk more about that
I
too.
mean, for sure. Because I think it's very important because even in my classes like esoteric mechanics, it starts out with a certain analyzation of the various levels of the mind and what you're doing and stuff like that, and it really all those core principles is found in yoga and really found in like the Hindu and the Vedic and overall Eastern systems of magic or meditation. That is a major part of it. And it's nice because I have, a few people that take that class and they're studied in Hinduism or Tibetan Buddhism, and they're like, oh yeah, for sure, like I totally get that, and they can take it and run with it on a totally different degree. So I think those things that you bring up are really important. So I mean, yeah, run with it for sure.
Okay, for sure. So if we're looking at this through the context I'm referring to from the book called the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali, there are many different types of spiritual training that we do, and all of them go together and kind of like hold hands with one another in giving you abilities to access those deeper mind states. So you're not just going to focus on one of them, but really like all the limbs of yoga work together to help change your overall mental pattern, whether you are just living your life or doing some kind of ritual or prayer to spirits. It's an overall deprogramming of the mind by analyzing all these different aspects. So when it comes to other facets of yoga, it also relates to what you're thinking about as you're going through the day and what your moral values are and all these things that you are actually caring about. What do you like? What don't you like? What are you focusing your mind on? And very often those things will actually get in our way of having any kind of spiritual experience at all, because the mind is so caught up in mundane affairs that it can't go into deeper avenues of thinking or even understanding ourselves, because we keep like projecting our problems on things externally instead of just addressing what we're evolved and incarnated here to do.
Well, one of the things that I always sorry, my throat wants to dry up the minute that we get
some lemon water.
Do you have lemon water available? I will
yeah.
take some lemon water. And one of the things that I think like a lot of people don't really even know about the asanas, or like the postures or positions even in yoga, is like, yeah, some of them are really hard to hold. Some of them might even not even really be needed, but the postures that we would hold in these positions and the breathing that we're doing and the focusing that goes on them does something that I call like it balances the hovering of the energetic bodies, because your energetic body's doing this all day long. Like realistically, it's going all over the place. It's our aura. It's moving, and when we're doing these kind of things, it allows actually the energetic body to stabilize and stop hovering around so much, and then we become actually way more in tune than we would think we would. And that's why all those levels of yoga and all those branches of yoga, they work, because there's a reason that it works, because it works on all the levels that you're supposed to work on.
Yeah, and then like the yogis would call those your different pranas, like your different
correct.
types of energy in your body. I'll talk about that in 1 second, but I just wanted to say hi to everyone else that has popped in. Hello to Julia. Thank you so much for showing up. Hi to Tim as well. Great that you're here again. Marvin Brodus. Hello. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. Official Jerry King. Hello. Thank you.
Official.
Thank you for officially being here.
Officially being here.
Hello. And we'll address people's questions in a second. I just kind of want to finish my tangent first. So
it's important.
When we're looking at the Vedic analysis of all of these things, I really enjoy it because they break everything down into all these different categories that you can actually decipher and understand. Like, what are all the different things that can get in the way of your mental patterns being able to access deep spirituality. But then also when it comes to the different pranas of our life force energy, it's not just the energy we have in us that's keeping us alive in just one kind. There's your digestion, and that can be like the way that you digest food, and even the way that you digest and understand information. Like that's all. It's so metaphysical in how you look at all of them. There's so many different ones. Yeah.
Those two go hand in hand, because you got to look at digestion and information as the same thing too. You know, so like if you have digestive problems, or you're having like some tummy issues, or something's going on with your digestive system, the first place to look at is actually like what you're learning about yourself, and how you're processing the information that you're learning, either about yourself or just information in general. So it's really important. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because people don't think about how important that is. Our ability to process and understand the information, because even in the Yoga Sutras, they list like misapprehension as one of the 9 disturbances that I talk about in the video from yesterday that get in the way of our ability to access our psychic senses and our inner self. Because if you're going off of misinformation, it will bring that into your reality in some way, and then you're basically like functioning in a dysfunctional way, and then you're going to have all these kind of problems that come up from that.
Creates more hovering. The energetic body, it does. Like when you have all those kind of issues boil up, it creates that chaos within the energetic body.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing too is the sorry, our dog is here now.
Joining.
He's joined.
Yeah.
So when it comes to looking at the different levels of deep meditation that the yogis philosophize about. And the other thing, just before I continue, the really beautiful thing about Hinduism is that there isn't really one set belief. So there are so many different interpretations of things. So what I'm saying is just, particular traditions that I've been studying. But you can really have different experiences when you go into extremely deep meditation. And just because some are considered deeper than others, it doesn't mean that being in a less deep state isn't amazing. And not everyone has to go into the deepest states of what's called samadhi. And then there's different types of samadhi that get like deeper and deeper. But like in the most extreme sense, it's like there is no difference between you and anything and God, and it's all just at one. But some people want to be able to experience contact, so you don't go as far. And so there's a lot of levels and ways of going into deeper meditations that people don't really consider. They just think like, okay, I'm going to try to like relax and turn off my mind and then just sort of see what starts happening. But if you are aware that there are different experiences that you can have in meditation, it will also help you be more creative and open with your experience, and then also less hard on yourself, because it does take a huge amount of training to reach the deeper states that most people want, and that comes literally just with practice. It's not supposed to be something really that's like gonna make you happy or solve your problems or even be fun. But the idea is when you do it, it actually makes you be able to manage your life and mind and all your spiritual work better.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. Should we go to the chat real quick, see if there's anything going on?
Yeah, there is a lot going on in the chat,
There
so
is.
let's address everyone's questions in chat. Thank you everybody for holding on to your questions. So let's start at the beginning here of what we got going on. I think there were some pretty cool questions.
Let's go here.
Yeah. Derek has the first question that I can see.
He says, Derek says, where do you stand on past life longevity? Um, I guess my question would be more of like, what does he mean by past life longevity? But we
If
definitely
what
believe
you
in past
mean
lives.
by that is your ability to extend your knowledge of that and then also take that into this life, that is a major goal of the yogic practice. So, yeah, I definitely believe in that. It's definitely provided a lot of benefits for me. I've had experiences that have definitely proven to me in the most literal and visceral ways that it's real. And yeah, I definitely think that is a major goal of meditation because the idea is we are getting to know ourselves.
Yeah, and that's actually the big part of the DNA work that I talk about in the Cyclux is it's to recall what I call cellular memory, and to me the longevity is actually held within our the knowledge and information is held on the etheric body, and it does connect to our cellular memory. So if we activate these various things in meditation and visualization, we can actually start connecting on a cellular level to start bringing these things up. So you have more knowledge of your past lives. Typically speaking, it starts out to be the most ones that are the most adjacent to your current one. But I mean, there's ways that we typically don't have to forget, and I know in my personal experience from the work I've done and just remembering past lives from, death experiences and doing a lot of meditation, there's so many that it's sometimes not even worth knowing the past lives.
It's very advanced to do because most people can't handle that because
Right.
usually the things that you're going to remember first aren't pleasant and that's extremely
Yeah.
difficult for people.
And then if you're doing release work and shadow work, you have all the things that you may have done in the past come up, and it just, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we can traverse it as long as you're ready to be able to withstand it and be able to work through the things. But the best to do is first work through the things in this life and then work through the things in the past lives. And to me, that's really real shadow work. And when people start remembering their past lives, whatever it is, those things kind of start coming into the mind a bit more.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to answer Big B's question. So Big B is talking about how they paid someone to do some sort of like malefica and why it didn't work. Well, why would you expect that someone who has the moral character to accept money to do harm to others is going to actually help you? That's basically my answer to that. Or why do you think the spirits would give someone like that any kind of real power?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. Sorry, it definitely sounds like you probably got scammed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who knows if they ever did it? But I agree.
Or even if you saw that they did do that, like I said, why would you expect someone that takes money to do negative things to other people to help you? Just look at it in that way,
Yeah.
But yeah. And also, people don't really have that kind of power. Especially anyone that's on the internet trying to act like they can sell that.
Rikus Smith here has a good one. How do you know that it's a past life experience and not just something your own mind makes up? That's a very, very good question there. And typically speaking, the past life experience is going to have a stronger emotional pull and play than say something just that your mind is making up. Not saying that the mind can't make something out and trigger an emotion, because the imagination is very strong, but it's going to be something probably random, and it's going to be something that just triggers a strong emotion and a lot of questions. And it when because there might be some doubt in your mind, but you're just like, man, that's so real that I can't get away from that. And that's the way I decipher from them being either it's a memory of something hidden in there, or it was a real past life, or perhaps maybe I'm just kind of envisioning something. And I think people that want to go into remembering their past lives, think they may have a better chance of making it up because they're wanting it. So they're expecting it, and all of a sudden they finally get a vision, and then their imagination will take place, and that's okay. Maybe they're hinging on a real thing, but you know, there's a lot to that for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to that, and like, just to kind of go off of what people were talking about in the chat in response to that, there's definitely a difference between doing something for justice and doing something that's specifically trying to cause harm to a person or a situation. That's very different when you're looking at like because if you're just asking for justice and for the best thing to happen for everyone, that's not necessarily causing harm to people. That's very different. And so yeah, there's always going to be some kind of blowback to causing harm, and that's why I don't do that for people. And that's also why people don't have that kind of power. A lot of people will like to act like they can, but it really doesn't work that way. And so I know for sure, because I definitely wouldn't be here right now if all the people who said they could actually do that, because I know that I'm probably in like 100 bogs and buried in a jar and like as many locations as we could possibly imagine at this point, and in everyone's freezer. So like I really don't think that works in that way, and so yeah, I think that's basically what I have to say about that. Right, and plus, like, how can you know if something is a valid reason if it's for somebody else? Like, you can't. Right. People could just lie to you, so that's the thing.
Cool, Miss. Yeah, Miss saying that they've had that experience with that past life where it just kind of came up and, you know, wasn't trying and stuff like that. That's the best natural way to get them, to be honest with you. And if you do enough meditation, the memories are going to start coming up. You're going to get to a point, and you're going to get to a point where they just start coming up like a little fountain. You know what I mean? They're just going to start coming up, and then you're going to have to kind of process them.
No, you can't pay someone to make you win the lottery.
Yeah. If that was the case, I'm sure everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
You know? It's probably honestly it's probably done, but it's in one of those old grimoires that's like, you know, find the femur.
That was the dog's reaction to
find
that.
the femur of a 3-legged goat. You know, you're like, wait a minute, like I got to go find a femur of a 3-legged goat on a Friday.
He's joking too.
Yeah,
He's not talking about
totally,
something that's real.
It's not
so
even
please
real.
don't try to do that.
But they're, you know, like those old grimoires.
Yeah.
You know, they tell you to do some crazy things, but no, there's no way to really make that to you to win the lottery.
You can help, like, increase your luck and to clear away blockages, but magic and witchcraft isn't like a request for wishes to be granted. That's not what it is. It causes life-changing experiences where you could do something that opens the way and gives you blessings so you can figure out a way to have that happen. But like, one spell isn't going to make it so you win the lottery. It would be like some, and I know people that do work on this kind of thing, but it's way more advanced than that. And
yeah, it is.
And it's also people that actually have it in their karmas to be able to do that, because not everyone can. We can't just decide completely our own fate. We don't have that much control over what's going to happen in our destiny, but the things that we do could be part of what makes our destiny happen. So like, yeah, sure, it could be part of your destiny to do a spell to make you more lucky, or to do a spell to help open roads for you to clear away problems that could get in the way of you winning the lottery.
And that's what the spirits,
Yeah.
if you're interacting with, that's what they're going to do. I mean, they're not going to just bring you a sack of money the next day and set it down in front of you, you know, and scurry off. It's usually not the way it's going to happen. But that's not saying that the spirits or the energies that you're working with aren't going to lead you to possibilities and openings that, and then if you don't take it, I mean, it's up to you.
Right. Plus, also, with a lot of people, like, if they didn't have winning the lottery as part of their karmas and they were really trying to do it, and, like, maybe they did get that to happen, it could cause really bad things to them because they were trying to get into some different timeline that's not aligned with your true will and your evolution. The main thing is like, just because you want something doesn't mean that it's the right thing to happen for you. There are certain people where it would benefit them to win the lottery because they would be capable of handling that money and doing something with it because they're a very advanced person in the world. But that's not...
Or karmically, they might need to win it to go through some big fall downs.
Yes,
a lot of those people that win that, they're like, I'm broke.
Exactly. So it's not... That's why it's not on the table for anyone to do. Yeah.
Excuse me again. Roland Pierce here says, what are the aliens' intentions? Do you think they are aliens living among us disguised as people? Aliens or ETs in general, their intentions are just like humans would be. It's free will, so it's quite ranging. Now, are there aliens or ETs living among us disguised as people? The ones that are living among us could disguise themselves as people, but most of the ones that are actually living out and about, they look like us. They look like human. You wouldn't know. They just have a higher psychic function, and they just maybe have an internal biology that might be slightly different than normal human, but they look very, very much like us, so they don't really even have to disguise themselves. Those are the ones that, you're typically going to find in, like those things with like the hybrid programs and the SSPs and all that kind of stuff. So it's typically they're going to look just like us and they don't have to disguise us. And the ones that don't look like us, they're typically are going to be able to disguise themselves psychically and telepathically and telekinetically a lot different than most other beings. Which actually gets me into a question earlier about what I was going to go into next.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Marika says, I hear there's a type of meditation you can do where you can contact aliens. Would love to hear about that as well, if you guys have any knowledge on that. Yeah, there's definitely some out there. I'm not going to mention some of the other ones because I do have...
I've done a few different ones.
Yeah, there's some out there, and there's some pretty popular ones right now by some pretty big figures in the UFO arena, and which it does kind of work, and I've seen it work, and I've known people that have experienced those, and they say they work too. But I've been working on one that for years that I've personally done and have done for years, and I've had great results. And other people that have used it in a group setting with me, we've also had cool sightings and weird orbs in the sky do a bunch of stuff. And that's actually one of the things that I was going to show everybody that they can go to and get this and apply it to your meditation practice or your practice in general. This process that allows you to connect to a higher intelligence and put yourself in a placement to be able to do so, which actually goes through every single level that you were talking about in the limbs of yoga. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before, I just want to comment on, do you have your thought on what you were going to say next? Or am I distracting you from what you're doing now?
I was just going to go into the document.
Okay, cool. But before you do that, I just wanted to say, okay, so in regards to the philosophical preposition or what have you on what wisdom applied is saying in chat, saying that like, okay, well, if there's infinite timelines, then everything could be real and everything could be possible if we just move out of them. Or move in and out of timelines. Of course, but it's not easy to just choose a timeline to go into. Usually when people shift timelines, it's through some kind of like really awful thing happens that shifts you into it. So it's definitely not something that I would ever recommend to anyone to try to do.
There's ways to be guided on it.
You can, but if you're just trying to force yourself to shift into another timeline, that's a recipe for
and I will say
some kind of trauma.
To be able to do proficiently, you have to understand astral and celestial letters and magic squares to an extremely high degree to be able to program the fabric or the lines that we play with when we do so. And if you're not doing it properly, it can quite scatter yourself even more.
So just like doing spells to win the lottery, doing spells to shift your timeline are definitely going to be reserved for extremely advanced situations.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why magic squares have been kept secret for so long, because if somebody doesn't know the process,
everybody would be doing it if you could just
everybody
put it
would
on
be
the
doing it,
internet
and then you
make
have a problem,
a thing
you know?
about it. Right, exactly. There's a reason why it's not easily accessible to people.
Yeah.
Nor should it be, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then when you do know that kind of stuff, you don't learn it and know it through abusing it.
Yeah.
You know, but
And
it does become a very pinpointed thing, you know, but there's so many levels even into that. Okay?
And like you say, whatever happens, happens. Honey, sweet summer child, you have no idea the kinds of insane horrors that can happen from having that attitude. And all I have to say is, as someone who has gone through that like so many times from other people having those mentalities and me living around them, it's not something to take lightly. And it's not going to be what you would ever expect. And that the reality is everything is far stranger than you could ever possibly imagine. And the truth is far more grand and really horrifying than anyone can even think about or decipher. And when you start tapping into the openness of strangeness that's out there, you really do have to realize why these things are so sacred.
I love this little comment here by Mesanu on timelines. He goes, "Do you see the movie Butterfly Effect?" That's a phenomenal movie, and it's actually why I always tell people to dream journal all the time, because you can not saying you're going to physically go back to the time, but there's ways that we can shift our assemblage by going back and reading our own journals, and it brings us back psychically to those things, and we can re-experience it through different modes of our own movement, if you will, in our mind, and that's really what I love about that movie. The first one's way better than the second one, but there's a lot of truth to it, and I remember seeing that movie even as a young kid, and I was like, God, this is true. You know, this is true stuff. This is great.
Yeah, and exactly like what United Virtues is saying. We all see life through filters, and those filters are created by our karmas and our own mind. And so the whole idea behind yoga is we learn how to see through the filters.
Yeah, I call them lenses. Yeah, I look at them as like lenses. We all have our own kind of lens of it.
And Julia says, the answer is often found in quantum physics and shadow matter.
Yes, it is. For most things, technologically and spiritually. You know, once people really understand that there's like more to binary code and there's more to, you know, the dark matter and the quantum level of what we're experiencing on an atomic level, and they can fuse spirit with matter and be able to create that technology, which they already have, but actually bring it to the surface and be like, hey, this is what we have. It's going to be a very big thing in the world, for sure.
Yeah, and like, I know I can get kind of like intense and passionate when I talk about the things that I was just saying. It's just like, after having to fight for my life so many times, I just don't want bad things to happen to people. And I genuinely care about every single one of you that are watching this. And I know that, like, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of intense energies without realizing where it's going to actually lead you. Okay, I think I'm ready for you to...
I think I hit everything that I wanted to hit, too.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
All right. So if you go to thebiagateway.com, there's a little spot up here called video courses. If you go to video courses, there's a little button here that says free. If you go to free, there's the gateway protocol. And just hit view, and I'll share it on the screen. And you can read it all, you know, eventually, but I want to go through realistically the steps of this, and it goes back to what we were originally talking about, like through the steps of bringing your mind down in a process of being able to do something, and pretty much everything that you were talking about falls into this thing. And I'm going to slightly read it, but I'm going to kind of elaborate on it, and we can kind of go off and kind of explain similar things that we kind of do, and hopefully it gives some advice. And you all can do this process because it is really a very specific process, and I'd say if a single part of this is missed, you're missing part of it, and it's only going to work if it's built like a symphony almost, you know.
Yeah.
So it all has to go together.
So once again, we're going through a free document that John Vermillion has written for all of you that you can find on his website, linked in the description of this video on thevioletgateway.com. Mm-hmm. So you can even open it up on another tab if you want to look at the document.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And either way, it'll be shown on the screen, but it might not look too easy to read. But realistically, like I said, no part of this should really be missed. Everything should be adhered to some degree. And as anybody that's practiced ritual or occultism in whatever fashion, a lot of this will probably make sense, you know. And so step one is what I would call setting space. And this is really the thing to me that starts creating the process. You know, and you find this in like things like puja. You find this in, you know, in the Tibetan chambers where they would have to prep the altar first before they would do any of their ritual work, and this became a thing where you have to set the space of it. Light candles, you know, do something specific. Also, if you have a place in your house that you can go to that is going to be set for it. You know what I mean? And it's not just random all the time. If you have a spare room or a place in your bedroom or
one
room,
place on the floor that like you feel cozy, it can be really cool to just keep working on the same place because you will feel the energy shift once you found your like chosen.
Yep. I mean, I'll get weird with it and go around with like a pendulum and stuff and see where the rotations are going, and that's why I put things where I have them, you know.
That's really cool.
I did that originally. But I mean, it's really important that we do that. And, you know, you could even do it on your bed because that's going to hold a lot of energy. But either way, it's all about like really setting that space, you know, light candles, choose incense, put on ambient music, meditative music, whatever can shift your external environment to get you in the tuning of what you'll be doing. You know, and it goes into the next part, step 2, set intention. While you're doing this, we're in the process of setting intention. But after you're doing this, make sure you have one intention. And this could really be for anything. It doesn't have to be, I want to contact an alien or I want a UFO to show up. It could be, I want to calm my mind. I want a day that's good and not crazy today because of schoolwork or work and all this kind of stuff. And you can make that your intent to be able to do it. You know, Virtue says clean my room. Yeah, maybe you'll get the energy to do so. You know, so I'm saying it can go down to a very small thing because what this is teaching you to do is to be able to connect to a frequency within your own energetic body that's going to help you get the things that you're kind of requesting and on your intent. Like other meditations that are similar to this, like CE5 and other UFO alien contact methods, being loving, peaceful, not angry, just content and happy with good heart and good intentions, that's also really important in the process. But just remember though, what a lot of those kind of other protocols are talking about is just because you have good intentions and you feel loving does not mean that something else that's going to communicate with you cares about that. You know, and that's the same thing when it goes to people. You know, you can have that same interaction. They might say, you might love that person and care about him and all this kind of stuff and show these great things. That doesn't mean that it's reciprocated in the same way. And it goes the same way for these other beings, but perhaps on a different vibrational level. They might not care about your emotions or mind patterns and have some kind of an infiltration on it. So as much as it's important to be aligned to peace and love and harmony and all that kind of stuff, it's just better for you to be in that mind state for your own good, realistically, rather than what you'll be getting out of it. You have anything to add to that?
Yeah. If you have stuff that's going to distract you, this would be a really good time. It's really important to pay attention to the time before you're doing your actual meditation and consider that to be part of the time, because it will take your brain at least 10 to 25 minutes to change states. And so you could even do something like yoga during this time. Other energy types of exercises are really great for that, where you start getting your Shakti energy flowing through your body. So, like, you could even go into some dancing and put on some music and raise your energy like that too.
And that would all be part of the part 1 and part 2, really. You know, that part of the intention and the setting space. And then step 3, and part of that also goes into step 3. I mean, when you do all that and you're doing yoga and all that kind of stuff and you're dancing around or getting your energy flowing and all that kind of stuff, the next step is to get comfortable. And we do all that to really get comfortable. You know, we've set our space, we've lit candles, we got nice music going, we have all this environment that's building up in this nice environment, energetic environment. We set our intention and we get comfortable within the environment that we just made. And in reality, there is no best meditation posture. I mean, we could sit here and argue, you know, or have a good conversations for hours about what the best meditation posture is, because they all do have a purpose. But whatever's comfortable, and we're looking for comfortable here. So if that means you sitting in cross-legged and typical meditation posture is really comfortable for you and you can hold that for a long time, fantastic. If you prefer a chair, great. If you prefer to lay down on the floor in your bed, wherever it's comfortable is the key here. Okay, so I can't stress comfortable enough, because we want to kind of lose our awareness of our physical body in this process. So we're going to start becoming something different realistically when we kind of start losing our focus and awareness of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then realistically, this is when the meditation and breath and moving ourselves into various levels really start to take place. And that's going to be found in step 4, which is a concept of what I call locked breathing. I think that's might be what other people call it, locked breathing. I don't know. I just call it locked breathing because that's what I feel like I'm doing in my body. And you want to perform 7 rounds of this. And it seems like a lot when you're doing it, but after doing 7 of them, you'll understand why it's like, oh, wow, this is quite intense. And really what you want to do at this point is you want to, in your comfortable state, close your eyes, just kind of go regular breathing, get comfortable, and breathe yourself into your center. But then next you want to start focusing on breathing in slowly for 5 seconds, and then you hold your breath for 5 seconds. But at the time that you finally reach that pinnacle of the breath and you begin to hold it, you want to clench your root center and your diaphragm. So it's like you're kind of clenching, like almost like kegling, and then flexing your abs at the same time while you're holding the breath.
So in yoga, they call those the bandhas.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And you kind of want to feel like a ball at what they call like the lower dantian, or like the lower, like the solar plexus and sacral area. And then you release the lock as you slowly exhale. So you kind of feel it release, and then you hold no breath inside of you for another 5 seconds. And then you repeat that 7 times. And the lock part of it is so important, because what we're doing is we're taking all the breath, which the breath becomes your energy. The prana is your energy. And you're breathing in that prana, and then you're compressing it inside. And then as you breathe out, you're allowing it to expand. And that's going to expand your energetic body naturally and create a very strong, like after 3 or 4 times of doing this, you're going to feel so relaxed and like you're vibrating at that point. And you just kind of keep going until you get 7 of them. Really go on your breath, you know, and I say 5 seconds because usually inhaling of 5 seconds usually fills somebody up. I have a very strong capacity to be able to do that. So for me, it's sometimes like 9 or 10 seconds of breath in, and then I'll clench for the same amount of time as much as I possibly can, and then do the same thing. Play with it to see what breath you are, comfortable with. I mean, if it's 3 seconds, it's 3 seconds, but you're going to build it up the more and more you practice with it. But this step 4 here with the locked breath is a very important and integral part to actually getting into this state of mind that we will need to be in to be able to create this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and can I talk about some things?
Of course.
Absolutely. So in regards to everyone's comments in chat as you were explaining these meditation techniques, it is normal for people to struggle and have a hard time focusing and have a hard time meditating. If you're the kind of person who is thinking, well, if you're worrying that like you have a disorder that makes it so you can't focus, then it would probably be really good for you to work on training yourself to overcome that, because we can change our mind patterns and overcome things if we really want to do that. It takes time. It takes different time for everyone. Some people are going to find it easier to get into doing these kind of exercises, but you just want to figure out, where do you start in your own unique creative way based on what's comfortable for you. So if you're someone that's really struggling with paying attention, or if you have a disorder where you can't pay attention, find a focal point of attention. And so there's techniques where you do that, where you could repeat a mantra, you could focus on the image of a deity, you can focus on your breathing. So instead of it being like, oh, I'm getting distracted by things around me, it's I am choosing to do these particular things with my mind and with my body. So while you're doing it, you can't be distracted because you're forcing yourself to do these things. Right. And it's just like training in the gym.
Focus, it's like exercise. It's focus, concentration, and what we're doing in this process is so we can call this step 4 of that root lock. That is a breathing exercise that we were doing. So even if your mind starts to flow away, just go back to it. And forget who said here that the breaths are hard for me. They should be. And if the breath is hard, start small, 3 seconds. Yeah,
we are talking about very advanced stuff.
Yes,
so
we can take this even more
just know, like, we're talking about really advanced stuff. It's not going to be easy for everybody to just do this, but maybe there's something that you could take away from this that you can learn from. Also, I really like Christopher Castro's comments. Definitely like what Kenneth Grant discusses about Kundalini. I found the same kind of fascination with Eastern and Vedic practices that Aleister Crowley and Kenneth Grant muse on in their writings, and so that's why I decided I would just start studying traditional yoga and Vedic scriptures myself. And so absolutely.
All stems there.
Yeah.
And these are all meditative things that people would find in advanced Tibetan practice as well, like these breathing techniques. Like that root lock is not a introductory breathing technique. It's not. But can we make it introductory? Sure. I mean, with practice, yes, we can be able to do such a thing. Step 5 goes into what's called energy expansion, and after the locked breath, we move straight into another series of breaths. So we're still doing a breathing exercise, which gets our energetic body and our internal selves kind of prepped for the next parts. So this time, though, we are expanding the energetic body through visualization. So the next step, we go through visualization, where we start to hyperfixate on a color or an intent of some sort. And this breath is really a breath that you want to feel, and I think in I don't know the full name, you might know, it's like that pore breathing. You really want to see it come into your pores and out of your pores. So like when you're breathing in, it's coming into your lungs, but you want to start bringing yourself visually to start seeing it come in from your pores of your body and into the center. And then when you breathe out, you want to see it leave. Okay, so the steps are simple. You breathe in slowly and deeply. Feel as if you're breathing from every part of your body, and see this air and energy coming into you as a royal blue or an electric royal blue light. Okay, so that light is actually coming into your body and then going back out of it as you exhale. So use your breath as a guide and breathe this blue light into a sphere of blue light around you. And then again, keep doing it. Again, 7 times. And you want to keep expanding this sphere. So you breathe in blue from your pores, breathe out, and it's expanding into this sphere around you, which really is your energetic field. And you're just breathing and pushing it out. Same thing, breath should be held for about 5 to 7 seconds. That's your inhale and exhale. But really, cadence is important here. Don't get caught up in counting 5 to 7 seconds. Get more caught up on feeling just a strong inhale and making sure you're feeling that electric blue light come in and that electric blue light just come out, and use your breath as the guide for that.
Because when you change your breathing patterns, it will actually affect your mental patterns. All these things are put together for a specific reason to help you. One thing that I really like to compare all of this to is like the concept of cognitive behavioral therapy that they'll like talk about when, like, let's say someone's going to a therapist for some mental problems that they're having, and the therapist will give them like techniques of things that you can do, breathing exercises, visualizations, all these kind of things, so you can mitigate the experience that you're having, so you can function in a healthy way and help you become mentally stronger, so you don't feel like you're limiting yourself in life. And so all these things are exercises that we can do that will help, not just in getting a really deep spiritual transmission, which is some people's goal in meditation, but some people just need to do meditation because your life is so fast paced.
Let it calm.
Yeah, and like you're just draining your energy all the time with all the people that you're helping and talking to and everything through your day.
Yeah.
You got to recharge that somehow, and it affects everybody.
You know, you could take step 4 and step 5 of these breathing techniques and do this as an exercise just every day as a breathing exercise. But to get in the process that I'm talking about in the Gateway Protocol, you do have to do these things in succession. So it's not like you can't take these exercises and apply them throughout your day too to get better at them and practice them separately. But the protocol itself and the process of this, what I call advanced interdimensional communication, is really specific. It is a ritual. It's a meditative ritual. And it's something that we've never really talked about on the show, and it goes over a lot of the stuff that you study. It goes over a lot of stuff that I, teach and you teach, and I think it's a good way to explain a lot of this in a good way.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I think is super important, just to get to Circus's question up top, because I think a lot of people are wondering, like, so Circus says, once you're in a relaxed state and in a trance-like state and got the breathing figured out, like, what are we trying to do? Just be chill and be present, or using that state to reach a goal? Don't have a goal. You can have a goal.
If you're doing this, it's so specific that there is, like, the answer to his question is the next step if you're doing this. So once you release the relaxed step, the next thing. But if you're just doing typical meditation, you don't want to have it an expectation. You don't even really have an expectation of this. But after reaching those relaxed states, then there's always a next step. And we do the next step when you reach a state, because if you don't do the next step, you're not going to go beyond the last state that you were in. So you have to go through these states to be able to do it. So you could just chill and enjoy. I've done that. I've got a lot in meditation. I like to just kind of chill and enjoy and just feel things and see what comes up. That's like usually what that's fun meditation.
But don't get too caught up in what comes up. Like, take note of it, but don't like obsess over it. It's really just about like seeing how deep you're going to get and not holding on to things in there. Or you can have a specific goal if you're meditating with a mantra of a deity or something like that, to get in contact with them, or to have a vision. Let's say you're trying to have a vision of Krishna and you're doing a mantra to Krishna, and then eventually, if you get a really deep state, you'll meet Krishna and have some kind of message from him. But if you're just doing overall meditation to practice, try to go into it without having a specific goal, but just seeing what's happening to you and just taking note on that without dwelling on it, and writing notes, because the whole point of it is to learn about yourself and your connection to the universe. But if you're wanting stuff with more focused like steps and goals, try the protocol that Vermilion has,
because this is
you.
Very specific. So like anytime we reach that next state, we go on to another thing, and eventually we do end up in a state of like stasis, I would say, like where we're kind of in this state of limbo, where we went through this whole process and now we're just going to be existing. During that existing spot where we are kind of just hanging out and chilling and not really thinking of anything, because we're so not aware of our body even at this point, that's where the information comes. That's where the ideas, the thoughts, the imagery starts coming in. And this is to really get us through the different levels of things. And so once we do step 5, which is that energy expansion of the electric blue light in and out of inhales, we will set up a protection. And this is something a lot of the popular ones don't really teach you, I guess, like some of the other protocols, is because they say, oh, as long as you're in a loving state, they're not going to hurt you. Anybody that's had any interaction with an ET or an alien being or something like that, they know that that's not always the case. That's sometimes yes, sometimes no. So we have to be protected. Another being that's of high caliber is not going to look at you putting up a protection as an insult to them. Mm-hmm. They're going to get it. Because they're like, yeah, I'm protected from you too. You know what I mean? Like, you're lower than I'm going to be a little more protected from you. So it's important to put up a protection. So right after the last 2 breathing exercises, you really want to kind of remain along your center. And this is a point that we can kind of just start not focusing on so much of a breathing exercise, but go back to normal breathing and start pulling yourself to like the center again and just getting really kind of comfortable and getting back in that state. And at this point, you should be pretty kind of almost far gone feeling. Like you feel tingling, you can just feel energized, and you're going to be pretty deep in relaxation, I would say. And this is where you want to pretty much just create a kind of like an eye shape or like a bubble around you of violet light, which we've talked about many times. I mean, this should look 3-dimensional, like you're inside of it, and it's just surrounding you, and sit with some time doing this. Like sit, don't just put it up for like 5-10 seconds. Sit and bask in it just for a little while and start kind of just getting in touch with it. Okay, because that's going to assert it. If we can sit there and hang out with it for 30 seconds to a minute and just around us, that's going to assert it a bit more. And last but not least is the important part, which is tuning to a frequency. And frequency is something that we both talk about a lot. And if we look at the universe as a vibrational continuum of vibrations and frequencies, and we know color as frequency, sound as frequency, even shape as a vibration, we know it kind of creates everything. And how do we connect to it? And how do we connect to the ones that we would want to? And I don't mean like, oh, connect to an alien because you want to. This is going to connect you to something in your own energetic oversoul stream, whether it be from past lives, whether it be, your conscious life, whether it be your guides, or maybe intelligence that you might not even be aware of. And it's going to at least get you into the point of being able to attune with it a little bit more. So step 7 is tuning to a frequency, and the visualization sequence is really what's important. And if something has a sequence, like a code, I think somebody mentioned something like that earlier about a code or a sequence.
We call this access codes for meditation.
Oh, we did.
Yeah. It may have been us.
It may have been
that
us.
That person may have been us.
Foreshadowing. But yes, it is kind of like an access code, but it's a symbolic representation of something we're creating in our mind to tune our mind into a specific state of request, reception, and frequency within our own selves, even though it might seem like it's going to come out from beyond us, which is,
But it's like one of those really kind of metaphysical things where it is us and then it's not us. And then, So like, if we're looking at super deep states of meditation in the Vedic scriptures, like what it talks about in the Yoga Sutras, there's a samprajnata samadhi where you are able to experience the deity as like separate from you and have that contact, and maybe that's really part of you. Like it's kind of like this thing where everything is part of us. It doesn't mean it's not real though. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist in another dimension, but it comes through us and is part of us. And then there's samprajnata samadhi where you actually become one with like the all and everything in like the deepest states of it. And so if you're trying to have a goal, it's not going to be easy to just have your goal be like the deepest states of meditation. Just enjoy the process of meditating. Every little part of it is the point and the goal, like everything that you're doing, because the real point of it is not about the message that you get from a spirit when you're meditating. or a vision or something like that, or to feel more peaceful. It's that when you make yourself go through these kind of exercises, it will literally change the way that your mind works as you go through your day in life, so you can handle everything better.
Miss 99 says overlapping Venn diagram layers of self and others. 100%. I go through that very, very, very deeply in my esoteric mechanics class, and we really learn how to utilize the Vesica Pisces and that shape to our full energetic degrees. It's very, very cool. And if anybody knows, in the inside of a Vesica Pisces, that little eye shape in the center of the two circles coming into each other, that's really how that protection looks. It should look like that. And there's a big reason for that, which you might be able to find out just for me saying that if you think real hard. But it's really important, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mist. It's good. But yeah, so tuning to a frequency. This is the hard part. Realistically, this is the hardest part of it, and in no way of this whole protocol is it easy. It's not. It's not really supposed to be easy. It takes practice. It takes application. It takes like, oh, I'm really good at step 1, step 2, and step 3, but man, when I start to do this breathing exercise, I really am not good at it. Cool. Well, still do step 1, 2, and 3, but practice step 4. And then when you get good at step 4, then practice step 5 with it. And then one day you're going to hit this point, you're like, whoa, like this just massively shifted. And I know, because when I was being taught this, I would be in meditation getting each part down, but then I would have my guide be like, okay, next step is like, I need you to do this. So once I'd master the next part, I'm like, oh my God, man, that's the next thing. Okay, next breathing exercise, but then I would be guided on how to do the breathing exercise, and then I would be guided to other books on pranayama and Hindu philosophy of them explaining that breath. So I was like, oh, it's not a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and doing all this kind of practice on your own energy body will make it so you can find your guide.
And this is what this is for.
Yeah, and that's one of the things also that I talk about in the video from yesterday on the ancient secrets for activating psychic abilities. In the Yoga Sutras, there's essentially 2 ways that you can activate these deep states and powers, as it were, and that's working on your energy, and then also having that personal guide, the Ishtadevata, which is like your personal deity, manifestation of it. Maybe it's any of the deities that you're working with, but in Hinduism, it's obviously like one of those deities. And so that's how it's analyzed in the text. And when you have your connection to your Ishtadevata, they will help be a guide to you to go and receive messages and to go deeper. And thus it does transform your energy body. But then also when you do the work on your own energy through all the limbs of yoga, it will essentially activate that for you anyway. And like it will help you to find that. It's sort of like one feeds into the other, and they both have the same goal, but having devotion will help you get there faster.
Yeah, and in this process, before I even wrote it and started publicly putting it out, I used it for years, and I've guided several people through this process because it was right for them at the moment. And the thing is, like, they tend to always meet their guide, their higher guide, if you will, or the same thing in Hinduism. But the thing is, like, it's always been like a different mass than they would expect. You know what I mean? Like, I had one that was like Anubis. I had the most powerful experience with Anubis because I never thought about that spirit in my life. Never. And I'm like, well, there he is. And next thing you know, they made an amazing energy pack, like, with him working with Anubis. And I was like, there you go. Some people, oh, wow, it's Ganesh. Oh, cool. I'm so glad you had a powerful experience with Ganesh. Or it's something completely different. For me, it was completely different. I was just like, it would have been really helpful if y'all kind of showed up as like an old Native American man, or like, or even another deity that I could place a face on, So, but, I couldn't deny the information and the friendship and guidance that I was given to them my whole life. So they might not look like your typical depictions, but I still got the same thing out of them. But this part is really the bulk of what's tunes your mind. Before we're getting into this state of consciousness, we're expanding our energetic body, we're doing these visualizations to kind of activate certain things in our energetic body, but now we're tuning the mind. And the first step to this is, when we've already done all the other things, we want to start breathing directly into the third eye center. So when you're breathing in, feel as if that breath is just going there. And we know it's going into your lungs. We know that's how breath works. But you want to bring your feeling that's breathing into that center, okay? And feel that breath if it's entering there, and then see a royal blue circle and a royal blue dot centered in the middle of it. And make sure the dot is centered in the middle of the circle, and the circle is not like moving side to side or doing anything. Spend time to balance that out. This is going to help balance the hemispheres of the brain and kind of prime itself for the visualization and getting yourself even more focused in it. And just take some normal breaths and just kind of visualize this. If you see the color change, revert it back to blue and don't think about it too much, you know. Then you want to start focusing more on the breath, because each part of this is based on the breath. And on the inhale, you want to start visualizing at the heart center a pale pink diamond that is kind of pointing vertical. So it's a diamond that's pointing vertical. The points are up and down, okay? And inside that diamond is another dot, which you've seen kind of at your third eye, which is also like a pale pink color. And on the exhale, you want to see a green diamond shape that goes then horizontally. Okay, and this sounds very, very advanced, but you're bringing your mind into various vibrational levels. And it's inside of you. It's part of your energetic body at this point. And it's starting to be like, okay, I'm connecting to these things at different ways. This really should look like an octahedron that's inside of you, where the major part of it that's vertical is kind of more pink in color, while the other one's green. So it...
And the colors are really important.
They are,
They're not
those are
just
vibrations
random colors.
themselves. Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Do you have more that you want to talk about today? Or you're still good to keep going?
Yeah, I'll explain this. So if they get anything for a minute, it's great.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, the colors are frequencies. So, you know, that's why it's pink. I'm not a big fan of color pink, but the pink is the frequency. So that's why it's important that we're using pale pink. And pale pink is the color of like unconditional love. It's a higher thing. It's not an emotional thing of love. It's not, you know, oh, I love you because you do this. It's unconditional. So that's where we're going with it. We're going into an unconditional state within ourselves. And when we bring the green horizontally within our exhale and visualization, we're connecting more of an emotional level on the horizontal plane, like through us. We're bringing that unconditional love energy here, reverberating it kind of more in the world that we're in rather than theirs. So once this is formed, you return your focus back on your third eye and continue breathing into this center, knowing that it's already balanced, knowing that you already did step 1 and 2, and just stabilize your breathing and just kind of pay attention to what you've just done. Okay. What about hot pink or neon pink? Hot pink and neon pink would mean that there's an overstimulation of it. Try to go as pale as you can here. It's going to help the frequency be more, not so over accentuated, if you will. There's definitely a time and place. But hot pink and neon pink is going to bring in a lot of lust energy, which is good in a lot of workings. For this, it's not going to prove to work too well because of what we'd be connecting to at this point. But if you do use it in any kind of ritualistic environment for whatever reason, it will prone to help. So the next part, when you've already done this, you want to start inhaling and slowly inhale and using your breath, but create a mental movement of pale yellow from the royal blue dot at your pineal gland. And we bring this pale yellow light down from the pineal gland into the center of that diamond that we created in that pale pink. Okay. And then exhale slowly, sending energy back up this pale yellow line of light back into the pineal gland. Okay, so we're breathing in and back up, connecting to this yellow line, going back up and down, and we're creating this channel. We want to repeat that we want to repeat steps 4 and 5 about 3 times. If you get lost in it and you did it 5 times, that's fine. You at least have to do it 3 times. Step 7 is you start inhaling slowly into, again, your third eye. And this time you hold focus on the pale yellow line between the heart and your third eye, which is that channel we built up. And then on the exhale, you want to push it above your head, okay, into what kind of looks like a halo of silver light, okay? And in the middle of that halo of silver light looks like a little antenna sticking up, you know, almost like a Teletubby head, you know. It's got like I'll show you the picture, but it's just a line with a ball.
United Virtues is saying that that he would like visuals.
Oh, good. We'll get to them. Yeah. So we then push it up above into like that receiver transmitter antenna that's in that halo. Okay. And then this exhale.
So yeah, here's the image.
Here's the image.
John made it.
Yes, I'll get to you. I'll show it more on the screen, but I'm using this as notes as well.
Yeah.
So you want to hold your attention now when we push that above into that. So this little dot here that you see here is really where our attention is. So we're going to feel ourselves be high and push ourselves up with the breath into this area and remain there. So this is that part that we're like, kind of just chill and hang out, realistically. And at this point, we've done all this. I guarantee your mind's not going to think about the dishes. It's not going to think about all the monotonous stuff. You've gone through this huge process where now we've reached this frequency and now we're existing in it. And this is where we reach a very crazy high state of meditation. It's a hyper gamma state of focus, but also a theta state of awareness. So we're creating this hypervigilance between theta state and gamma, really high, from sleeping to high awakeness by doing this. So we're playing an energetic trick on our brain by doing that. And it allows us to exist hyper aware in this state of almost nothingness. We're so far removed from our body at this point. And next thing you know, this is where we are receptive enough to start seeing the images, getting proper information, getting guidance, as long as we're there and we're waiting for it. And now, can we get guidance and all this kind of stuff not doing this? Yes. I just know that this process is quite specific and it works to get you to what a lot of people would say, like your HGA, or an intelligence within your energetic stream that you would consider your guardian angel or your higher aspect. This is a very, very ritualistic way of doing it without being like, oh, I'm going to go through the Abraham Allen ritual. This is going to benefit you 10 times better, because just the steps alone and creating the process is training you how to not only be better at setting intention, better at getting comfortable, but also breathing, visualizing, protecting yourself, and opening yourself up to the things that you would want to be communicating with you. And this is why this actually works better than a lot of those alien connection protocols, because this is very specific, and this is going to bring very specific energies from what I call your own oversoul to interact with you, rather than something else that's just being like, ooh, pretty light, I'm going to go mess with it. It's a tuning process that is much different than the others. It's more ritualistic than just sitting down and meditating. But all the steps in it, practiced alone, besides step 7, is really a great way to practice and tune yourself to understanding breath work and visualization and meditation. And of course, this document is free on the Violet Gateway, and you can read it and do it all you want. And I love that I've already had people reach out to me and tell me that they're already experiencing things, and it's good to hear. So I'm glad I got to share it more in depth.
When I look at the illustration that you made for this, sometimes it looks as if the silver disc is like elevating up along the central pole,
and it's almost like how it should
it
feel.
Moves.
Yeah, it's almost
so
how it
cool.
should feel in it. Yeah, and that's really what it looks like. And then you see the royal blue, you see the green, the pale pink, the blue, the yellow line. It's all right there. That's really how it looks like. But the process of getting into it is so damn important. And can we go out and do a field, feel all happy with our friends, produce good vibes, and be like, yeah, UFOs, aliens, come and get me, yeah, and then create enough energy that they're like, what the hell is this, and have a show? Yeah, yes. For sure. For sure. But as practitioners and anybody that works in the occult, especially if you work with spirits and demons and jinn or angels or whatever, that a lot of this is part of the process. And it's just, I think meditation itself is kind of deleted from a lot of religious practice, besides like Eastern Buddhism and Hinduism. It's deleted. And you don't even find meditation too often in Western occultism, unless it's a mystery school that just so happens to be like, hey, we know meditation's good, we're going to add it in there. And,
or like for example, in Crowley's work, where he was directly inspired from Vedic and Buddhist techniques. Yeah. So that's where that is.
It's
even
because
coming
it
from.
Starts there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts there. That's why like we were talking, I think me and you were just talking the other day, just about like landing points or like hinging points. And I was like, it's beneficial for you to like land on the Hindu and Vedic stuff because now you have a place to put all your stuff.
Yeah,
You know
like
what
I
mean?
understand
You have
more about what those authors
Correct.
were talking about.
Yes, and that's what I found in, Sufism or Islam and Hinduism and Tibetan Buddhism. I had a landing point where I could take my experiences and take the information that I was receiving and being like, oh, now I can explain it in a different way that makes way more sense. And you can put it into a better perspective and a better working order. And I think that's something that almost everybody should do.
Yeah, and I really like Circus's comment about like if people saw the chakras and decided the colors were like that from seeing it. Yeah, you can see them.
You can leave your body and actually see the chakras, and they do look like a cylinder of light that are various in different colors, and they look like spinning discs. They look like what I would like say like a record, like a CD or a record. They're just spinning around. They're just spinning wheels of light, just like Sanskrit told us, but they're not horizontal. Like it's not spinning like this. It's not coming out like this. It's spinning more like a plane, a disc. But yeah, but the thing is that they're all different colors. So if you went every day and went in and like, I'm going to spend 5 minutes just tuning into my chakras, and you tune into your root chakra and you're like, wow, it should be red, but why is it like pink? Like we were talking about earlier. Well, maybe you got a lot of lust going on. Maybe you're hyperactive, in that area a little bit. And that could be an indication. So now we can understand ourselves better and be like, okay, I want to balance this out. Like a painter, add a little bit more red. Create the fusion, change it. Okay, go to the next one. Oh my God, it should be orange. Why is it green? Why is my sacral green? And there's ways that we can understand ourselves psychically to understand then what we would have to do to move our energetic body to balance it, because they are the colors that way because they're etheric light. So if we look at light shined through a 3-sided prism, which we're in the 3 dimensions, the triangle, we see light go through it. That is the color of light refraction within the physical, and our body and our etheric body is that light refracting into the physical from the astral. So it might seem weird that they're all the color of the rainbow, but there's a reason for that, and it's vibrational. No other reason for it besides vibration. Red is a lower, slower, deeper vibration of wavelength, and it just happens that our brain picks it as red. If it was seafoam green, and that's just what our brain depicted that frequency as, then I would be saying, hey, put seafoam green there.
Yeah, and to what United Virtues is saying, yeah, the colors will be lessened or more if there's some sort of imbalance in that energy center in some way. That will teach you something about what you should be working on.
Yeah, and if you see that circle and dot even along the chakras, and they're forward or backwards or side to side, we know we can use that to be like, oh, if they're forward, I'm thinking or feeling too much in the future. Or if they're in the back, you're thinking and feeling too much in the past. Or if you're on the right side, you're too right-brained and creative and you're lost in your thoughts. And if they're too on the left, you're way too damn logical and you're not balanced. There's ways that we can shift the energetic bodies vibrationally and dimensionally by just doing these simple things. And it sounds way harder than it actually is. And that's why there's so many people over the years and the systems that have always tried to explain it.
We covered so much ground today. I feel like we should start shutting it down.
No, it's not right.
I think I don't want to. Or do you want to say anything else?
Not unless anybody has any.
Okay,
questions.
I really want people to be able to think about what we talked about today, because there was a lot of really advanced information, and our dog is he's ready. He's ready to do something. He's making sounds, and he's run away.
Yeah, United Virtue says, I can imagine someone with bright colors and someone with dull colors. Yeah, I look at it like, if you do see somebody energetically and their colors are dull, look at their energetic. Maybe they have dull energy. I mean, that just could be the case. It's not hating on them. They're just dull. I mean, you do find that.
You can't remove your chakras. That's not real.
You cannot remove your chakras.
That's not real. There's a lot of things that a lot of contemporary occultists talk about that are not real.
You can do a thing called nesting, and that's a very advanced, very, very, very advanced process that nobody should be doing unless you're doing one-on-one consults and like one-on-one guidance to be able to do the process.
Your dog wants to go outside too. United Virtues.
It's like the natural like dog cycle of the day.
It is. They know. It's like, okay, it's 6:30 now.
6:30 somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, you can't remove them.
It wouldn't benefit you. There's no reason to do that of any benefit at all.
There's
to even
none.
try to pretend like that's happened.
Juliana says, does chakra unification exist? That's more kind of what I mean by nesting. It's not so much of a unification, but there's ways that we can nest the chakras just like one would be able to nest dimensional overtones and do something, crazy like by location and stuff like that. But like I said, it's a very advanced process and usually comes, with, real Kundalini activation, and nobody will be the same afterwards if that was the process. But yeah, you do unify them. Like, I'm like thinking about it in my head right now, and like how they compress.
Not
so, like,
just circles, but they flow in and out. Like all your energy bodies
you
weave
can
into
compress it
out of them. That's why you can't remove your energy bodies. That's what makes you alive. I'll have to have all of them.
So it makes you animated.
Yeah.
Oh no, they all remove their chakras.
Like people can think that they have done something like that and cause some kind of like placebo effect psychosis on themselves to think they've done something and like put yourself into a mindset. And everyone that I've encountered that's done that, they've needed help in some way in life after, because of just sort of the entire mental process that one would even get into to do that is just based on misinformation. And so just like what I was talking about in the video from yesterday, misinformation guiding your spiritual path will get in the way of developing real psychic abilities.
Miss 999 says, like, when you sync their vibration, the eye and the heart do a resonance, etc. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing in that visualization there, Miss, with the heart and the eye there. Like we are syncing them for sure.
Yeah, and Circus's question is amazing, and this is something that like I talk about a lot with my yoga teacher. This misinterpretation of the word, the phrase Kundalini awakening. Yeah, a lot of people think
Kundalini activation and full Kundalini awakening is two different things. I've dealt with it my whole life within this field and have my own experiences with it. And if you do have a real Kundalini awakening, I assure you, you're never the absolute same again. Like, it's not like, ooh, I had a mystical experience and all this kind of stuff. It's a different level of makam or mind for that to happen. The Kundalini experience itself, very real as it is, there's a lot of people talking about it out there that have no fucking clue what it actually is like. So if you have a mystical experience and you start having interesting energy movements, doesn't mean that you're going through Kundalini awakening. People can have a Kundalini blast or a activation because those mystical points, yes, we do have that energy rise up and do something, but the full awakening aspect of it is a highly uncomfortable process. Just what the dog said. The dog agrees.
He made a gurgling sound.
He did make a gurgling sound.
So that's good.
Yeah. So that's the misunderstanding of the whole Kundalini thing. And I know there's so many books out there that have come out about Kundalini this and Kundalini that, and it's like, oh, like that's Circus Cult says here, I felt waves going up and down my body during meditation.
That's your life force energy.
That's your energetic body.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that's Kundalini. It just means that you're feeling your energetic body. And if you feel your energetic body, that is phenomenal because there's a lot you can do with it. And remember, Circus, when you go and tune back, when you're doing this breath work even, tune back of feeling how that wave feels. Tune into it. If you can recall that in your mind, you're recreating that feeling and now you're working with it. And if we learn this kind of stuff, that's how we do it. And I know a lot of my work can cause premature Kundalini activation, but that is why we do it in such a process. Like, there's grounding, there's protection.
It's
there's
not something that you go to one retreat for a couple of days and then do something and then suddenly you've awakened your Kundalini. It's literally like one of the deepest, profound goals of overall yoga and spirituality. So it's not easily... it will change you forever. Like it's not just suddenly feeling spiritual energy awakening and moving in you. That's great. That's good. That's what's supposed to happen. But the Kundalini awakening is something far greater than that will profoundly change you.
And
You change your whole life.
And it's way more physical than people would like to even admit to it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's quite the process. You know?
People are having really good questions, so
They
we
are.
don't want
No,
to leave.
If
you're asking really good questions, we're not going to leave. We'll stay. We'll stay as long as people are asking good questions. Bless you.
Yep.
You want to say hi to the people? You want to say hi to the people? Hello?
Let's see here. There's money here. Yeah. Official Jerry King says, "Oh man, a painful transformation." Yeah, that's really what Kundalini is, you know, and my work personally, like with the system that I teach in meditation and stuff, it is made to make sure you don't go through spontaneous, and it's a slow release kind of process if it's supposed to happen, because I do believe that activation is kind of written into our DNA on the etheric level, because it is an etheric process. That's why they call it like the cosmic fire, or the etheric fire that rises up from the spine, because there is an etheric fire that sure does go up the spine, but it's not like energy moving. It's
when you're doing
different
stuff, you will eventually feel, just like what one of y'all was saying, a tingling. You will feel it, and that's not a Kundalini awakening, but that's you awakening your energy and becoming aware of feeling it. Like when I talk about psychic senses, this is part of that. Like these feelings of something that's you can't see with the naked eye. All of those things. Yeah.
Circus Cult says, "How does it change you? Like just becoming a different person, thinking differently, not being who you used to be?" You could say it sounds like growing up. I think we all kind of go through those moderate awakenings of just as we grow up, to be able to kind of shed old energy and move into different energies and stuff like that. So that's, I mean, no, it's not like that. It's like if your chances of you having the same girlfriend, same family, same everything like that's very, very slim.
Looking at everything in life in a different way, your interests change.
It won't be like I think I do. No, it's just like I'm leaving. And you see a lot of these people that do go through real Kundalini, they leave. They don't talk to nobody. They leave because they know what they just have to do, and you end up finding them in Tibet or in India and going to these places and staying there and working with real meditative masters that put their shit back together because they need that. And it changes your life so dramatically. It's to the point where it's not even that you're thinking different. It's not even that you're who you used to be. At that point, you're not even you. You're not even thinking of yourself as a you. And it's quite, if anything, you'd have to almost like relearn how to be yourself after the experience, and you have to like be like, oh, this is me. Like, oh, I'm John. Okay. It's more of that, because it dissolves everything away, and we're not talking even just from this life, but it's a karmic dissolving of everything in your energetic body. That actually happens physically. You can actually feel it physically happening. It's scary. Yeah.
Great stream.
Yeah.
Great questions. Thank you for bringing intelligent and thoughtful questions to the chat. Thank you also for asking us questions that were related to the topic at hand. Yeah, thank you.
It's like Jim Carrey when he started acting weird. Yeah, so he went through a Kundalini activation for sure, but I don't think he's went through a whole awakening. But there's definitely something that happened with his programming.
Maybe he did.
Much. Yeah, some of his programming went away for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a different topic, programming. But yeah, for sure that something happened to him to dissolve some of the original programming. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop talking.
No, you can keep talking if you have more to say.
No, not at all. I'm just going off. People still asking questions.
Thanks, Julia. You're sweet. Thank you.
Do you know that answer? Sarah's calls this MK Ultra stream went. Should we have a whole stream on MK Ultra? No.
But we have been streaming for quite some time, and I am getting pretty tired, so I would like to eat dinner.
Yeah, food's
And
good.
I'm glad that people like me talking about different Vedic concepts. I can get more into that in the future, but it's great that you guys care about that. I'm glad. Yeah, absolutely. And Christopher, I mean, I definitely think that with those questions, you could do your own research to answer that. I mean, there's obviously a lot of things in different subtle energies that are related to different aspects. So, like, just to lightly answer your question, our Shakti energy is different than our prana because our pranas have many different types of pranas. And then our Shakti energy is very much related to, like, our tantric energy. And then the Kundalini energy has to do with the activation of the energy through all your chakras.
And that happens on the etheric level.
And I am literally beginning to lose my voice, so I hope that please look up and research those terms, and you can see and learn.
Tons of chakra work in Asaya Kalaksa that explains chakras quite heavily as they actually are, not some weird thing that even goes into the biology.
Yeah, but that's so cool that y'all actually like hearing about all the different stuff that I'm learning in my yoga teacher training. So that's great. I'll definitely talk more about that. Maybe we could do another one that's just about like the different kinds of pranic energy, so we can talk about that in more detail, and I can put some notes together on it for you. Yeah.
All right. Let's feed ourselves our dog and take him for a walk.
We definitely will. And if you guys would like to reach us and find all of our online classes, all the books that Vermilion publishes, I'm a clairvoyant and tarot reader, and the links to all that stuff can be found on our websites in the description of this video. There's also a link to a meditation workshop that Vermilion and I did, that if you want like a class lecture that we did on meditation, you can find that linked there. And if you want to find the document of the Gateway Protocol for free, that is on thevioletgateway.com, linked in the description of this video as well. So all that stuff's down there for you. Please share this channel with anyone that you think may benefit from it. It really helps so much when you share. And please hit like and subscribe if you're not subscribed. Why aren't you subscribed? Even if you hate us, can you just subscribe? Can you just subscribe? You watched all the way to the end. You might as well. Subscribe and stay. Yeah, this is a great chat. I really appreciate everyone's questions. I think we did, and we have now answered all the questions.
I believe so.
Okay, and yeah.
Wonderful.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.